Okay. Howdy, folks. Welcome to the live stream. Making sure I'm looking all right. I'm looking devilishly handsome there on the camera here. Welcome to the live stream. So I'm going to regale with you with my review about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. 19 concurrent viewers. Oh my gosh. That is a record for starting out. So let me regale. I hate those streams where they just talk forever about something else and they don't ever get to the point of the title. I mean, I've seen so many streams where they promise you this topic in the top of the stream, and then they don't talk about it. So let me tell you how my last weekend went. No, just kidding. All right, let's get to it. So last night I decided I wanted to see a movie, so I'm not going to give you the review. And most reviews, what really bothers me when I read a review is like they recap the storyline. Like usually I look at reviews after I've seen a movie or even before I want to see a movie. I don't really care about the storyline. No recap. I'm not going to tell you any plot, any story whatsoever when it comes to no spoilers. Let's keep it completely spoiler free. How you doing, Jack Ripper and Stormy Mess? How you doing? So I'm still stalling, right? So last night I said I haven't been to the movies for a while. I've not even been on stream last week because last week was I was so dead from all the work, right? So my friends took me down to do a hike. Here I'm pushing this far, so I had to do a hike. I closed Jesus Christ Superstar, closing night. I was on top of that a little sick, so I'm still got a little bit of the sniffles, but otherwise I'm pretty good health. So I said, well, I haven't been to the movie theater. I'm paying, the Regal subscription fee so I can go see a movie whenever I want. I'm paying that. I'm not going to see movies. Let's see what's playing. Oh yeah, Spider-Man and the Spider-Verse came out. Now, if you've been following me, you know me. I think Into the Spider-Verse is one of the best animated movies ever made. I think it's incredibly clever and brilliant. So I have high expectations for the sequel. I didn't watch any trailer. I've been following any of this stuff. I knew it came out last night, so I decided I want to go see it last night. Okay, so I originally was planning to go to a 9 o'clock showing, which was a smaller theater. And I thought, well, I'll go to a 9:30 screening in the big theater. That was probably a mistake. That was probably a very bad mistake. When I got to the theater, my friend joined me, and we sat down. It was packed to the gills. Unfortunately, packed with some psychopathic teenagers. I swear to God, these teenagers. Now I'm getting close to 41. All right, these teenagers feel like they are literally psychopaths. They have no empathy for other people. They were like being incredibly rude by like making weird laughing noises throughout the movie at inappropriate places. At one point they started applauding for no reason. They were whistling and just being obnoxiously annoying throughout the movie. And there was a large part. My friend Claire keeps texting me here. There's a large part of the theater where all teenagers, so they all kind of laughed at it. It was so grating to have these teenagers in the room and people were constantly milling in and out throughout the whole film. It's like they kept coming in, kept going out, kept coming in, kept going. Like lots of people kept coming in and out. So now my review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, you got to take that in the caveat. You got to realize that I was being aggravated the entire time by the theater of psychopath kids. that have no empathy for anybody else. They probably, if I were king, I would probably sentence them all to death. I mean, that's just me. I would literally, oh my God, Story Mess, thank you so much for that super chat. Happy birthday, 41 years. I've got a month and a half until I turn 41. Well, thank you so much for that super chat. I'll throw you up on the stream there. Thank you so much, Story Mess. So yeah, whatever I'm going to say about this movie, you got to take that into context. You got to take that into contextual understanding. The second point I wanted to make, and this may not be something that people don't know when they go, if you walk into this movie, you won't know this from the advertising, right? What was that? My neighbor is doing something weird. Okay, you won't know this from the advertising. The movie is about 2 hours and 20 minutes long, I believe. 2 hours and 20, something like that. And toward the end of that 2 hour mark, I'm thinking in my head, how are they going to wrap this up? Like, we've got a main bad guy. We haven't seen him on screen for like 30 minutes. All of a sudden, they're adding this detail, and they're adding this detail. Like, holy moly! I'm already aggravated because of all the psychopaths in the crowd. Like, literally, death penalty for everybody, all the kids. Just kill them. Decrease the surplus population. My neighbor's doing something down there. That's weird. It's throwing me off. Anyhow, so all this stuff is happening, and it's like 2 hours into the movie, and like they keep adding all these complications, and we still haven't dealt with the main bad guy yet. Like, how are they going to wrap this up in the next? This movie's already 2 hours long. Is this thing going to be like an hour and a half? Because we got to wrap this up really quickly. Oh yeah, it's a part one. Like, my opinion of the movie was like toward the end, I was like, oh, this is going to be really, really bad. Like, my friend was asking me what grade I would give. I would give it like a C- toward the end of the movie. I was like, dude, this is dragging on. And then how are they going to wrap all this up? And oh yeah, it's a part one. My grade of the movie instantly went from a C- to, looking back at it, I would say a B. Like, I'm not in love with this movie. I love parts of it. If I were to take any chunk of the movie, I would think it's great. The art style is fantastic. Like, it is unbelievably how cool everything looks. I love the look of the film. I love every bit of the film except for the runtime, and just it felt unnecessary. There's a good 30 minutes of the movie I feel like they could be condensed. And without going too much into spoilers, I love the Muppet Scrooge reference. That's actually from the original play. The decrease the surplus population. That goes back to Dickens. But anyhow, without going into too much spoiler things, there's a lot of plot involving Miles Morales that they could have just cut out, because I've seen the original Into the Spider-Verse movie like 4 times. The Miles Morales story, we all know it already. Like, they didn't really add much. It was more like retreading plot line that we were familiar with from the first movie. So if they would have cut out like that section, and then because it takes a long time before we get into the crux, the main conceit of the film. The main conceit of the film obviously being the Spider-Verse, across the Spider-Verse. It takes like at least a good hour before we even get into the Spider-Verse. And that's when the movie kind of picks up. And to me, it was really interesting. But by sitting through basically an hour of kind of setup that we already know with Miles Morales' story, it just takes so long to get there that you're almost tired of all the animation stuff, because it's such great animation that it can just get a little overwhelming. And if you could somehow, I would say, even if you walked in like 30 minutes late into the movie, you'd probably get the best part of the movie. Was the Jack the Ripper says normalize the 90-minute movie. Yeah. That's kind of like so I was watching Film Threats review, and then he was bringing up normalize the 2-hour movie. Like, normalize movies that have a more constrained sense. Again, 'cause I was thinking about my love for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Another movie that I acknowledge is probably too long. Like I agree. I love that movie with all my heart. I love everything everywhere all at once. I love that movie. However, I will look at you straight in the eye and say, yes, it's too long. There's something it just it has a little too many rises and falls, a little too many cycles of peak and trough. And if they would take out like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, it would be tighter. It would just be a little bit better. However, in that movie, I don't know what I would take out. Like, because I love every part of it. I don't know what I would take out. I mean, I would have to do, I'd have to sit there and really watch it many times and do the really painful surgery of just getting rid of parts of it. I mean, it can be done. But Spider-Verse, I could say, take out a lot of the Miles Morales story. Again, like, there's like the first 20 minutes of the film, 15 minutes of the film is all about Gwen's character, which is neat and cool, but it's like, well, where are we going to get back to Miles? We're going to get back to the Spider-Man story the Spider-Verse story that we were familiar, we're expecting. So, I think there's ways that you could have cut Spider-Verse. It just felt too long. Now, I feel like I would definitely want to go see it again. Maybe to assess it again without having the psychopathic teenagers in the audience, because I really was. I'm old, I guess. It's just the new mic looks like a large capsule condenser. I've been using this for a while. This is the Rode broadcaster mic. I'm not sure if it's 34 millimeter, but it's large anyhow. Oh, that was a comment there. So yeah, that's my feeling on the Spider-Verse. I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't love it as much as I loved the first one. I really didn't. Now, okay, so one point with Everything Everywhere at Once. I feel like that movie was long, but it has a satisfying ending. This movie is a part one. So if you go to watch this movie, keep that in mind. They really needed to advertise that more, I think. Because you're kind of expecting the whole movie to wrap up, but it doesn't. And it doesn't really even leave on people are saying it leaves on a cliffhanger. I don't know if I would call that a cliffhanger. It sort of just kind of abruptly ends. Like it's, like assemble the team and they get ready to go and Miles Morales will return in Spider-Man 2, So if it's a part one, I feel like, I guess there's two kind of frames of thought you can think of as part one. It gives you a little more time to expand and go deeper into the characters. I don't know. Also feels like it's a little too much padding, too much filler, too much indulgence in certain aspects, and I really wish they would have kind of stuck more toward the Spider-Verse, which is why I was there. So again, we'll take that into context, my review of this, although, it's YouTube, nobody will do that. They will automatically think I hate the movie, and therefore get out your pitchforks, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take this fat guy down. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not a true Spider-Man fan, and I'm not really. But they're going to come after me, but whatever. So context is I saw it with a bunch of psychopaths, and I didn't realize it was a part one. So I was expecting it to wrap up a lot quicker than it was going to. So if when you're expecting the trajectory to come down and it keeps going like that, you're like, uh-oh, come on guys, bring it down, bring the plane down here, bring it down, and they keep going higher and higher, like, that's the context of what I felt about the movie. Now, the problem about part ones is, can you really even evaluate them without the part two? Like, I need to now know the resolution of the story. I can't just say, well, this is a great movie. No, I need to have a part two because it's not one of those movies that's self-contained. It's, in essence, Empire Strikes Back is sort of a self-contained movie. I mean, it tells this journey of the story, but it has an ending. The ending is not necessarily a happy ending. It's maybe an open ending, but there's an ending. There's an ending to Empire Strikes Back. Feels like this movie doesn't really have an ending. It has, the major conflicts are not really resolved. There's nothing, I don't know. I think I'm making a tenuous argument. I just thought of that, so go figure. Anyhow, that's my thoughts on Spider-Verse. Would I recommend you watching? Absolutely. Yeah, go and watch it. Absolutely. So, but just know it's long, and then avoid theaters that have teenage psychopaths. Like not just one. There must have been a dozen teenage psychopaths in that freaking audience. All right, now I want to bring this up. I don't see racism everywhere, right? Somebody yelled out N-word in the movie. I think the kid was white. Now, I don't think that's racist. I think he was just trying to get a rise out of people. But that's how psychopaths. These are psychopaths that were there. All right? It's like, it's come on. Like, because there's a lot of, that crowd was a very diverse crowd. There's a lot of kids that actually looked like Miles Morales in that crowd. All right, you don't yell out the N-word, even if it's in jest. I'm sorry. It's just disgusting. So yeah, I had enough of that theater. Did I ever watch Fool's Paradise? Was one of the questions I saw coming. No, I watched a Film Threat review of Fool's Paradise, and they did not give it a good rating, so I figured I was going to skip it. But it's a shame because Charlie Day, I love Charlie Day. You know, but the problem, I love Charlie Day because I love Charlie Day's voice. And apparently he plays a mute in the movie. So it's like, why would I not? Why would you make a movie when you basically take your best asset and you throw it away? Yeah. Yeah, the N-word is a gamer word and it's part of their culture. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so what I was telling my friend is like the woke culture is now the dominant culture, right? So that's the popular zeitgeist, is being anti-racism and all that. So in order to be a teenage rebellion, you do the opposite of what the woke zeitgeist. You be a racist. That's how you rebel against society, is to do whatever society tells you is wrong. So good job, guys. Good job bringing back racism. Anyhow, esport. Pro athlete, the ultimate gamer, the evolved human being, right? Theaters need to improve viewing experience, enforce some basic rules of behavior. Yeah, the problem with that, though, is all the people working there are the same age. So, let's see. Let's go back to some comments I saw earlier. What did I think of Bardo? Which one's Bardo? Was Bardo a character in the Spider-Verse? Or was that the, let's take a look, Bardo. Oh, I didn't see Bardo. All right, let's see. What other comments do we have in the chat line? I'm anxious to watch it. It seems like an insane visual trip. The creators said they wanted a film to be Empire Strikes Back, but the film's original title was Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. They should have called it Part 1. If I would have walked in there knowing that it was a part 1, I wouldn't have felt like so anxious about how it was going to end. I really do wish it was a part 1. Hi, John. Thank you for watching. Give me feedback on Cellar Door a while. I just finished a short and entering the film festival next week and starting the Living Dead weekend. Cool. I need to go back and actually do the reviews that I wanted to do. I think I know the problem with what I was dealing with when I was trying to do like video reviews. So I wanted to review your guys' submissions, but the problem was I came up with titles that were way too non-dramatic. Like I think a count for comment that comes by here kind of pointed out like titles on YouTube need a little bit of drama, right? So when I was talking about an industrial, no one cares. So I need to drama up a little bit, right? So I think that's my approach. And again, you kind of see it in this title for this stream, in that I do try to add a little bit of drama, a little bit of histrionics to the title. I liked Spider-Verse enough. I liked it. I just didn't love it, and the runtime was my real problem with it. Anyhow. All right, what's other comments we get to? Makes me think that anime, Mind Game, totally wild, unapologetic. The movie, the movie Bardo. No, I'm getting confused. Let's see, what else? This movie is more in line with Matrix Reloaded or Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest and how it's structured and ends, though significantly better than either one of those, thankfully. That's probably true. Matrix Reloaded was a kind of a drag. That was really tough to watch. I remember it's just like it just keeps going, and you're like trying to make sense of its philosophy, and like I don't think I get it yet. If you want to avoid psychopathic crowds, choose less crowded times. Avoid watching film in the first days I watched Guardians of the Galaxy. Very small crowded theater. Agree with that. And like if you can avoid, yeah. So I watched at the mall theater. It's near the mall. It's a Regal Cinema, and you know I went with Regal because they had a better selection of movies than AMC near me at least. The AMC near me is kind of small, and they don't really get that many movies. But the theater is more. The seating's not as new. It's not the new style with the big lounge chairs kind of things. And yeah, so there's a rule I have. There's a parking structure next to the theater. And my rule is I never park in the parking structure. Why? Because those psychopath kids, those frickin' kids in their lawns, no, they're on my lawn again. Those psychopath kids just like gun their engines down the damn parking structure trying to like set off people's car alarms. And it's like, why doesn't anybody do anything about that? Like, isn't that, it's got to be like illegal or at least needs to be stopped, right? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to stop me for flying a drone in a park. No, that's my thing, right? So I got to tell this story, right? So I am working with my city here, and decided on my own I wanted to get a shot of this one intersection that's kind of well known, at least to me it's iconic for my city. So there's a pond, there's a duck pond next to it. So I go there, and then I go to the far edge of the park. There's nobody around, and I just wanted to get a shot of this intersection from this duck pond. The thing about people don't realize about drones is that in order for me to shoot something, I don't need to be right over it. I just be off to the side of it, right? I don't need to be over anybody's head to get this shot of this intersection. I can be over this unused area over here, right? So I get there, I take off, and then I'm in the landing path of my airport. However, the airport's like 5 miles down the road, so technically I'm in the landing path, but I'm not going to go up more than like 200 feet. So if there's a plane landing, I was not in any danger whatsoever of ever crashing. I've got my 107 thing, certification. I understand, what I'm trying to do here. So, but I'm fighting DJI, trying to get the clearance and put my info in and finally get it going. I get my shot. It's like, sun setting. I get my shot. All right, cool. That's all I wanted. Bring it back down. And as soon as I land it, here comes the Parks and Recreation truck. Then they talk to me like, oh, you're not allowed to fly drone in the city. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. I probably did, but you got to buy. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't try to put a defense up. I wasn't saying like, well, I'm not going to fly over people. I'm over here. No, I'm sorry, I didn't know. They're like, oh yeah, there's other place across, near the freeway they fly drones. You can go over there if you want to fly. I'm like, okay, got my shot anyway. I don't care. I'm out of there, right? I got what I wanted to get. I'm done. I'm out of here. No, they can bug me. They can find me at like 6 p.m. on a Thursday night. They'll watch their cameras. They'll find me. Oh, that man is flying a drone in a park. My goodness. They'll find me. But the teenagers gunning their goddamn rice burning cars. Rice burners is probably racist, right? Those damn little cars of theirs running through the, endangering people and just barely being. No, that's cool. Let them do that shit all day long. I'm part 107 trying to fly a drone, avoiding people at all costs, trying to be as safe as possible, even registering. No, I'm the bad guy. But those damn freaking psychopath teenagers who are on my lawn as I speak. All right. Yeah. It's called anarcho-tyranny. Damn kids and their toys. No, my friend's like, oh, maybe it's just us getting old. Like, no, these kids are psychopaths. They don't have any respect for authority. They don't have any empathy for other people. They are literally psychopathic people. They probably should be murdered. If there was a just God, Every time they gunned the car, a needle would just come out of the back of their headrest and just sever the spine. Maybe not kill them, but at least seriously incapacitate them so that they don't have any more use of their limbs. And then, well, unfortunately, that would cause the car to go veer off and crash. If we could somehow make sure there's only that person that died, then I'm sure everybody would be cool with it. It would be totally cool if those psychopathic kids just had their lives ended. Is this going to get demonetized for me angry, being all old and like angry, being yelling at the clouds? Probably. It's not the kids, man. It's the system. Damn tootin' straight. That's because, their principals do not expel students these days. They just say, well, it's Johnny being Johnny. Like this, you're going to give me another rant about women in education. There's too many women in education. There needs to be some men who can like come down and drop the hammer of God on these kids. Anyhow. Oh, yeah. So Matthew says, I wonder if theaters have a rule where everybody's forced to give away their phones before entering the screening. In every screening, there was always some few people using their phones. Yep. In front of me, somebody was like, because the movie is long, and when you're in a room full of psychopathic teenagers, it's hard to concentrate, so you can feel the length of the movie. So the guy in front of me starts texting, and it's like, at least, if you're going to text, at least turn your screen brightness down. At least turn your screen brightness down. This stream took a turn. Took a turn for the best, I think. Are you not entertained by me ranting about killing student or teenage psychopathic teen? It's okay because they're psychopaths. I'm not going to kill the soccer player or the teenager that helps their community with community service hours. No, those are the bright, outstanding students of the future of our generation. I just want to take out the psychopath kids because they should just be dead. You shouldn't have these psychopath kids running around. We have a whole generation of psychopaths. They play Grand Theft Auto and they think that they can go out and do it for real. Like, how many have you gone on like Twitter and like saw like videos where people are like literally playing Grand Theft Auto in real life? Like flipping cars and stuff like that. I've never seen that before in my life. Anyhow. Turning old, man. Turning old. Has anyone seen Blackberry yet? It's a great Canadian indie film. Stars Glenn Howerton and Jay Baruchel. Go support it. Blackberry. Okay, check that one out. I definitely got to see that. Technically, you can play Grand Theft Auto in real. That's what they're trying to do. They're literally trying to play Grand Theft Auto out there. Kids today are where they are for many reasons, but the decay of morality is a big one. Yeah, there's a bigger conversation to be had about that, honestly. Really hate that. Watch a movie in VR instead? No, I will never do that. I hate watching movies in VR. I already wear glasses. I don't even wear it on top of my face on top of that. Yeah, true. You only get one shot if you play Grand Theft Auto in real life. Well, if you get wasted, you're done. I am yet to watch Across the Spider-Verse, but the trailers really show a wild and incredibly variety of art styles of all the films, maybe art styles. Which ones made the biggest impression of you? If you want to talk about, without going to spoilers, there's one section between Gwen and her father that I thought was beautiful. It happens very late in the movie. But I remember watching it thinking it was gorgeous. It was an absolute, and it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not surrealism, but it was nondescript. It washed away the background into a big watery color thing, and it was gorgeous. The problem was I didn't realize it was a part one, and I thought, like, this is a beautiful scene, but I don't need this because we need to wrap the story up. Like, we need to wrap this. You need to get the bad guy, and you're slowing down the movie for a very touching, very gorgeous scene. But we need to get this movie on the roll here. Come on, we're running out of time. And then they realize, oh yeah, it's the part one. So that was my annoyance with that. So again, I want to see. I probably, you know what? I'm probably going to go see it on Sunday in the afternoon. I'm going to pick a smaller theater, try to avoid the psychopathic freaking kids. And I might go see it just to see if I get a different vibe. If I just watch it from a different different perspective, different, different, because I think my opinion that the movie was too long, I think is going to be shared by a lot of people. I honestly do. But reading, because, when you watch a movie, you develop your own feelings, but you're like, hey, I wonder if anyone else has the same feeling. And so you go looking at Rotten Tomatoes, and I was trying to find, now there are a couple reviews I read, because I always like to read the negative reviews to see if I agree with them or do they pick something out. I wouldn't go so far as being a negative review on Across the Spider-Verse. I would say it's not as positive as it could have been. But like I wanted to find, so I was reading some other, and there are some reviewers that are saying, yeah, it's a little bit bloated. It's just, it does run long, but I think they're kind of like me. I'm more impressed by the art style. It's enough to make it a recommend, but it's the length it needs to be. We need to have a conversation about the length of these movies. It needs to be reined in, guys. It really does, Hollywood. We can't have every movie being basically a streaming show. Anyhow, do I have any advice for those writing their first short film? I've plenty of advice. With short films, don't worry about establishing lore. And I had this same issue with my short film. Reflecting back on my first, what I call first major short, which is like a serious short that I put a lot of time into to get into film festivals. It was a 22-minute short. It could be tightened. Short film should be a lot more disciplined in how much time you spend on things. And when I was a writer early on, when I was writing a few, spec scripts back in the day, I had a fascination with like Woody Allen, and I had a fascination with lengthy dialogue. So I would write these long monologues that were sort of, I would write necessarily for like a pattern or rhythm, not necessarily for the word choice. So like I wanted like a rhythm, a pitter patter, a kind of a dialogue that just kind of went nowhere, but it establishes kind of a mood or a feeling, right? So I would say be disciplined in how, if you can make your short as tight as possible. And that's the best advice, I think. Your short film should be economically and tight. Right for a visual medium. I have some interesting thoughts about that. So the other thing, so there's other things I watched, right? I watched, well, let me get to the one I want to talk about real quick. I had theater tickets to the show called Six. And you want to talk about the difference between Spider-Verse and a show like Six. So if you don't know what Six is kind of a musical, it's a musical phenomenon that's happening in England. Now, it may not resonate so much here in the state side, but it's starting to become more and more produced. Six tells the story of the 6 ex-wives of Henry VIII. And it's done in like a pop diva contest kind of a thing. And it is really good. I really enjoy it. So if you think about what they did with Hamilton with rap, now think about what they do. So that's what they did with Henry VIII's 6 ex-wives, but with like based on divas, so like Britney Spears and Avril Lavigne and Tina Turner, like those kind of Missy Elliott, I think was one of the inspirations. So think like that. It's like a pop diva concert featuring the 6 wives of Henry VIII. From Catherine of Aragon to, I forget the second one, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, and then Catherine Parr. I'm missing one in there. Which one am I missing? I'm missing the Catherine Howard. So really well done. And the cool thing about that, it was presented in a 1-act, 90-minute show. And it delivered exactly what it wanted in 1 act, in 90 minutes, and we're done. And you have the rest of the night free. Well done. Well done. So that's my take on the show Six. If you do happen to see it, I would say it's definitely worth watching. The Church of England does salute you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Off with her head. Yeah, so my point. Okay, so the other thing I watched last Sunday, I watched I binge watched Barry, Barry season 4, and my God, my love affair for Bill Hader has not waned whatsoever. I am willing to be his bitch for the rest of my life. I love Bill Hader with a passion. I thought that was really good, but it brings the point we're talking about right for the visual medium. How interesting it is that how Barry works. Because I don't think Barry. I think Barry's more of a theatrical medium. I've thought about this a lot. Because right now my work is essentially filmed radio. It really is. Like even some of my YouTube videos tend to be kind of filmed radio or a film podcast, right? Like this right here. You're watching me talk. You could easily turn off the visual, and you could get 95% of the thing. You won't see my face turn red as I call for the murder of psychopathic teenagers. However, you could get most of the thing just by listening to it. And I think a lot of shows operate in a similar fashion. You can literally close your eyes and listen to it and probably get a good section of the story. Barry, to me, sort of straddles that because, yeah, it is very dialogue heavy. There's a lot of, but the way it's shot it's mostly shot in long single takes, and there's something about the way they manipulate the camera. And I guess Bill Hader's directed several of these episodes, but these long takes are very cinematic in their own sense. Okay, there's one. Let me describe one scene. I should probably do a video on this because I think it's fascinating. There's one. The camera is located on this like car park. There's this big, beautiful mansion on a hill, and there's a car park, right? Like a little car lot, right? And so what the bad guys, they're called NoHo Hank and his buddy, come out and they put a grenade launcher and they launch a grenade at the house. And it goes shooting, and then it veers off like, oops, crap. they miss. Like, go get the other one. Oh, we only brought one missile. Why would you only bring one grenade? The whole thing is shot from one camera angle, right? It just pans along, and then so they miss, and then the guys in the mansion find out, and they start coming. Then they start driving down with like guns ablazing, and so they get in the car and they drive down to the next car pot. Again, all done in a single camera. And then the camera just moves, and you're following this all from one take. A vantage point, you're like, this is a weird vantage point to have for this entire sequence. But it's all done in one continuous, I don't know if it's a continuous take, but it's one continuous shot, right? So in essence, it's sort of anti-cinematic, in that you're not using the tools of cutting, you're not using the tools of editing, but in other ways it's hyper cinematic because you're using composition solely. So I found so fascinating. So again, so if you haven't listened to the Quentin Tarantino, I would recommend all of you at least either read or pick up the audiobook of the Quentin Tarantino Cinema Speculation. I would highly recommend you just listen to it. Because there's so much there. When we talk about film school, film history, and stuff like that, we kind of end it around Hitchcock, or the discussion about visual medium and the experiment kind of ends around Hitchcock. I'm being facetious. It obviously doesn't end around Hitchcock, but it feels like Hitchcock gets the end of it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is kind of a back and forth between visual and audio mediums, because if you listen to the Tarantino book, he talks a lot about, the name escapes me, the guy that's trying to be Hitchcock that made like Scarface and movies like that. Chat will tell me in a minute, I'm sure. But I'm blanking. Anyhow, so my point of the whole thing is, I think Hitchcock tends to be a certain kind of visual storyteller. Again, it depends on which Hitchcock you're talking about too, because Hitchcock was known to do those long single takes as well, right? Here, let's go. De Palma. Thank you. Thank you, De Palma. My brain is so weird sometimes. It's all about the psychopathic teens. I just want to off of them. Bill Hader is a huge film buff. He loves foreign art house movies. And I think it shows because I there is something about his work in Barry that it comes across so unique. Now, I would disagree that it's not quite like Kubrick, because I think Kubrick tends to do long takes, but they're very methodical and almost sort of dry. But Barry's long takes tends to be more theatrical, and they tend to be. Well, the thing about Barry is there's a humor aspect of Barry, like a cynical, dark humor that pervades everything, that's underneath everything. That it doesn't. It's okay. I was reading one review, and I think it completely misread the scene wrong. And I don't want to get too much into the political side of things, but there's one scene where Bill Hader's character Barry goes into a Walmart essentially and goes up to the counter and yells "guns," and they just and the person's like okay, and he walks out with like a whole back full of like weapons and like big giant scary, assault weapon looking things, right? Technically, the term's not really, but they were saying like that is that's sort of a commentary on how easy guns are to get in this society. And I thought, not really. I think that's more of I feel like the joke is even deeper than that. I feel like the joke is even commentary on what we expect of this universe. It has a very Grand Theft Auto kind of cynicism to gun violence. It's like we all love guns because they're so cool. And that's why you can just walk into Walmart and pick up all these guns. But Barry takes place in California, and in California, you're not going to be able to do that in a Walmart. So I don't know if it's it's not making fun of the reality. I think it's more making fun of the subtext of how we deal with media and what we expect of media. And it's kind of funny to my opinion. Anyhow, so I see a lot of Coen brothers in Barry. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's got a lot of the Coen brothers kind of dark humor to it. But there's something else. There's something else about. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's definitely a Coen brothers flavor, but it's not Coen brothers. Essentially, it's completely different than Coen brothers. But there's a Coen brothers kind of sensibility to it. I agree with that. Yeah, constitutional carry. It's your right, son. No, I'm not. I don't want to get into the whole gun stuff, but I just feel like that scene is not a commentary on society's guns because in California, the movie takes place in California. It doesn't happen in California. It just doesn't. Doesn't that come from the 70s, 80s blockbuster with the gun influence? Perhaps a little bit. I think, I also think that the gun is a symbolism of masculine power. If we want to get down to it, like if it wasn't guns, it would be swords. Like how many stories about medieval knights all feature the famous sword, Excalibur and all this. So there's always like a weapon, Thor's hammer, battle hammer. Those are not. There's always all these our mythologies are all around surrounding a weapon of something, right? So, rooftop Koreans built California. Yep. Yeah, so I think it's not necessarily the gun necessarily. It's the gun just happens to be the most modern invention. But like Star Wars has a lightsaber. All the mythical characters have a weapon of some sort. Even Jesus was like, has a sword. The gods, the swords, the angels with the swords. That kind of thing. Laser swords. Yep. So anyhow. There we go, back here. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 by James Gunn had a cool long take in a hallway action scene over my favorite MCU movies in years. That cool. I didn't see Galaxy. I heard that was not good, so I avoided it. But then I had some students. So I require my students to do like a weekly movie review or weekly movie, YouTube, whatever show review. Just tell me something you watched, right? and they a lot of them watch Guardians and say they liked it. So I was like, oh shoot, I should probably give this a second chance. But I'm kind of done with Marvel, so I was like, except for Sony's Spider-Verse. Obviously, I love the Spider-Verse, but I just didn't love this one. Anyhow, so yeah, so Barry, I highly recommend the entire series. It's very good, very good. I also finished up Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso has a very troubled third season. I felt it ended well. It didn't land the ending, but it did very well. I thought the season started off well. Then it really, really, really hit the skids halfway through. It just felt like dumb. And then it kind of brought it back for the ending. So I was marginally happy with the ending of Ted Lasso. So that's what I've been watching a lot of stuff. Not doing enough work, but no. So yeah, last week I basically kind of wrapped up my gigs from last month, the last while. So I've been kind of, this week was kind of rest and recuperation, although it was, well, I also come out of a cold. So I see Bo is afraid. No, I heard, I saw a bad review and I was like, I don't want to spend time. Again, the Film Threat folks, I watched a review from them. You watched Succession? No, I haven't gotten into Succession. So I just haven't. My friend was starting to watch Silo on Apple, and I started watching the first episode of Silo, and I gotta admit, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. Oh, your friend did that shot. Cool. Guardians 3, Christopher T.J. Maguire. Sweet. Yeah, it's inspired by Old Boy. Yeah, probably. I mean, Marvel has kind of been known to do those long single take, going back to the Avengers, right? Where you had basically all the heroes doing their thing in one giant take. So I think it's all, I don't know, with the hallway scene. If you thought that the Spider-Verse is too long, you definitely hate Bo is Afraid. Yeah. So yeah. So those are the Lasso, Barry, Six, and Spider-Verse were the things I saw. So yeah, like I said, my projects are done for the first half of the year, I guess. So I'm in a little bit of a lull between now. Speaking of which, I do pick up a musical. I'm doing Little Mermaid. I'm doing Little Mermaid in July, and it's the Broadway version of Little Mermaid, not the movie version of Little Mermaid, where they added that atrocious song, Scuttlebutt. I've listened to that song probably about 6 times now, just to see what it is about that song that I find detestable. I don't know. It's something that song is pretty gross. Pretty gross. You should be able to buy this shirt on YouTube. Should be on the. I think it should be on the shelf below. 24 frames a second. This one is very faded. I need to get some new shirts. I need to design some new shirts. That's what I should be doing on my time, my little lull period here. But I've just been tired, so I haven't been really doing a whole lot. What's my favorite long movie? I like Ben-Hur from 1959. Ben-Hur I just saw that like about 6 months ago. I rewatched it. And it was really good. My favorite long movie. Let's see. I don't know. My favorite probably Everything Everywhere at Once. It's probably super long. When I saw Gone with the Wind when I was a kid, and I thought it was pretty damn good. I actually saw that in theaters, not the original screening, obviously. I saw it, Caligula. No, I saw it like my library was doing a revival, and we watched Gone with the Wind. And I really liked that. I mean, Ben-Hur is definitely up there. Godfather Part 2 is another suggestion. Yep, there you go. Let's see. I like the one where the psychopathic teenagers get killed. Oh wait, that's just my dreams. Never mind. You infect those psycho teens? I would love to. I would love them all to just sleep. Or at least, be one of those things where you could like mystically put their minds in a body that like so they learn a lesson kind of a thing, like one of those old fairy tales where like, oh, you were so cruel, and then you would do like this clever magical thing where they now have to live as the person that they're harming kind of a thing, so they learn their lessons. I don't know. Ben-Hur is okay, but it's no Justice League Snyder cut lengthwise. Speaking of lengthwise, let me just zip my pants up here. Ooh. All right, there we go. All right. I gotta blow my nose. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Yeah, I have a paper towels down there. All right. Once Upon a Time in America. That's a good one. Santiago, 7.5 hours. Oh, God. Yeah, so The Little Mermaid, they're obviously the people are still talking about it because I think it just generates money to bash on a movie. But what the original was 87 minutes long, and the new live action is like 140 minutes or 120 minutes long, or so 140 minutes or something like that, or 120 something. I don't know, guys. We need to just literally pull these run times down a little bit. Unless it's like Dune Part 1 or Dune Part 2. I don't know. Yeah, David Leans later in his career got criticisms for how bloated his films increasingly were, treating any film as a grand epic. Ryan's daughter got really lambasted for it. Interesting. Yeah. No, I don't know. Oh, Scorsese. Yeah, Scorsese's new movie runs 3.5. Yeah, I couldn't even finish The Irishman. It was just so long. So long. Das Boot Harder. There we go. There he goes, the sequel. Das Boot Harder, mein Liebenschlein. I don't know. Can't do terrible German. My voice is starting to give. What else can we talk about? What else do you want to talk about? I've been, like on my list of things. So I've been getting a lot of comments on my studios videos. So every time people comment on stuff, I usually take that as a sign that I need to do something about it. Which is why I keep making those damn frame rate videos. But no, I got comments on the studio videos. A lot of people are still pushing me like, hey, when are you going to make more studios videos? I'm like, I thought no one liked these videos. But then, because when I did that Fox video on William Fox, it did so poorly. Like I put a lot of effort, and that was during the pandemic. So I put a lot of effort into getting that thing done, and it I put it out there, and it was like really just nothing happened. Right, nothing happened to it at all. But now, like about 2 years removed from it, I look back like it's still doing pretty good. It actually has relatively decent numbers. So I was like, okay, I should just make some more of these studio videos. They may not get like super viewed in the first 2-3 months, 6 months, but over years they end up doing well. Am I going to see Asteroid City? I want to see Asteroid City. So I guess, yeah, right. What's happening with Barbie movie, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible? Because Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise is upset that Oppenheimer is going to take out all the IMAX screens. So like, I'm pissed off. So that's going to be kind of a fun summer, right? You got Oppenheimer, Barbie movie, and Asteroid City, and Mission Impossible. It's like, hey, maybe these are some decent movies coming up. Bullet Signs, I would love one on United Artists is the one I was going to do next. Yeah, United Artists is going to be interesting. So another movie I watched not that long ago, maybe a couple weeks now, I watched Chaplin. So I saw Chaplin was on. I never saw Chaplin, so I watched Chaplin. And I think, so here's my take on it. Was a cute movie. It wasn't great. But I feel like Chaplin is a way better representation of the silent era than that crap movie, Babylon. I thought it felt to me like Chaplin was a better picture of what happened, what would have happened on set than Babylon. Like just way better. But I also, having known what the history a little bit about Chaplin, kind of familiar with the story, is cool, kind of cool to see all the characters pop up and do things. So I thought it was enjoyable. Yeah, I thought it was cute. I just didn't love it, but yeah, you thought it was a fantastic movie. I mean, I'd go for. I thought Downey Jr.'s performance was really good. I think he really embodied Chaplin. But Clone Forces, that's a pretty nice lineup for a change. Yeah. See, I don't know. I'm optimistic. Like I talked about this last time I was on stream. I think, like I am optimistic about the future of film because I feel like we're now seeing the big, ugly, corporate, kind of, well, not. I feel like we're seeing the big the elephant in the room, which was Disney, get taken down because I feel like they're ripping off like $1.5 billion worth of stuff off Disney Plus, right? Because they put all this money into building all these blockbusters, right? And they're just failing. And it feels like the room is no longer being suffocated of air from Disney because people are like, ugh, another live action remake. Oh God, another, and we're starting to kind of look for stuff that's more interesting. And now we got Oppenheimer and Barbie, which is going to make a great double feature. Yeah, don't you want to see a double feature with Oppenheimer and Barbie movie? I mean, they're big. Oh, there you go. We need a Buster Keaton movie. Yeah, wouldn't it be cool to have a Buster Keaton movie and then I know we just need more movies about the silent era that aren't that piece of shit Babylon. That was a terrible movie. But I would love to see more stuff about the silent era because I feel like that was a no holds barred time. It was just insane, right? I think you can do Buster Keaton. You could throw in Harold Lloyd. I mean, obviously Charlie Chaplin, but there's a great. The very ending of I'm spoiler here. The end of Tarantino's book. I'm pushing it again. Cinema Speculation. Get the book. The last chapter is based on his friend. His mom's like one on and off again boyfriend, and he's like, that Charlie Chaplin, that motherfucker never made me laugh. Like, give me Buster Keaton. That Charlie Chaplin, he's not cute. He's not funny. It's really good. So yeah, a whole a movie about the silent era that's not about Chaplin. I would love to see one about Keaton and the craziness of what's the guy that played Robin Hood? I think he was during the silent era as well. But Rudolph Valentino, Anime Wong, it's interesting to see even I did a whole video on Hayakawa Sesu, I think is his name. Who actually he was like a huge Japanese sex symbol in the early 20s because he's a handsome looking dude. F.W. Murnau, there you go. Openly gay in the 20s would be interesting. I think there's a lot of diversity. If you're looking for diversity, there's a lot of diversity in early film, silent era film that would surprise people. There's a lot of stuff that was happening back in those days. It would bump up their ESG scores, but it would be truthful too. It wouldn't be like some sort of weird, history washing thing. It would be literally, this is, when early films happened, there were a lot of people in this industry, a lot of mix of people, that weren't classically white kind of, classically white, what's her name? Mary Pickford. It wasn't all Mary Pickford, Laurel and Hardy are great, but they aren't silent. I think there was a Laurel Hardy movie, right? Yeah. Hays Code was pretty messed up. You think about it. Yeah. Hays Code was rough on people. Yeah. So it did kill. I mean, it was starting to be more going toward white people. I think probably when sound was coming around, because I think with sound, then you start, they wanted fewer accents. Probably, I imagine that's probably what made Hollywood more, racially less diverse, I guess. So I think that's what happened with. I mean, I don't know. I haven't done total research on this history yet. But it's like, yeah, if you didn't speak well, you couldn't really be on in movies. You had a transatlantic accent. Molly Darling. Anyhow, so yeah, I think oh, my phone's going. I think a good movie about silent era filmmaking would be fantastic. Unfortunately, you can't make an indie with it because that'd be too expensive because of all the costuming and having to get rid of all the stuff. Yeah, Cary Grant. I can never place the Cary Grant accent. Cary Grant and James Mason are two people I could never, as a kid, I never understood what their accents were. James Mason talked like this, and it's sort of a British accent, but not really. I'm James Mason, and it's got that weird thing, right? And Cary Grant had his own, I try to remember how to do a Cary Grant, but Cary, like, it's funny because some of my friends have never seen Arsenic and Old Lace, and Arsenic and Old Lace was one of my childhood movies that you would play over and over again. I used to watch Arsenic and Old Lace like ad infinitum. That and Simpsons. Like that was my I pop those videotapes in and then play with my toys. And then listen to Arsenic and Old Lace. With all that savings on the audio budget, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, Arsenic and Old Lace is such a great film. I mean, it started off as a play. Obviously, it started off as literally a stage play, and when it transferred to the movies, that they actually, I think they took the original Boris, not Boris Yeltsin, the character that played the Frankenstein character was the actual guy that played on Broadway, and so it's where they brought it over to. It's one of Capper's, but it's such a good film. It's dark too, It's a dark movie. Matthew says Grant was born in Britain and then went to the United States in the late teens. Oh, that's how he developed it. That's literally the transatlantic accent, isn't it? Right? Boris Karloff, thank you. It wasn't Boris Yeltsin. I was going to say Boris Yeltsin or Boris Johnson, and then it became Boris Karloff. That's the name of it. Never heard of Arsenic and Old Lace? Ah, you gotta hear it. It's great. It's good. It's an old black and white movie. So the plot is Cary Grant is going to get married. He comes to visit his two aunties, I believe, his two aunts that live in this house in Brooklyn, and then he finds out that they rent a room to wandering strangers, like elderly old men, and then they kill the old men and bury them in the backyard. Yes, this is a movie. This is a Frank Capra movie. Yeah, they literally poison the old men, and then they have their Boris Karloff character essentially dig their grave and bury them in the backyard. That is awesome. Forgive me, a grown-up. I mean, it feels like a Canadian movie. I don't know. Canadians would love the movie. But yeah, it came out like 40, 45, 46, something like that. I don't know. I don't know my years for that one. Maybe in 30s. But it's a really, really funny movie. Yep. When it comes to history, I prefer documentary over movies because movies have to sacrifice. Be careful with documentaries. All right, so I was flipping through HBO Max, and I saw some documentaries on HBO Max. Like, what is this? So I turn it on. It's like Jared from Subway, and I was like, there's a season about Jared from Subway. Like, and I started watching, and I'm like, oh God. And I turned it off after like 5 minutes because it was just starting to creep me out. Like, no, I'm out. No Jared from Subway documentary for me. Thank you very much. I'm gone. Walking out the door. Not a whole freaking season. Oh, it's Jared from Subway. Season 1. Oh, Lord. I'm out of here. Excuse me. All right. Interesting how It's a Wonderful Life is easily Frank Capra's iconic film. His definitive legacy, but it also marked the downfall of his career in the box office and in critical reception. I thought he did pretty well box office wise, but I think what happened was, and I got to look this up here real quick here. So It's a Wonderful Life. When did that come out? Was it late 40s? 46. So yeah, Frank Capra spent the war working under the Army. He's the Army Signal Corps. He made the propaganda movies that I oftentimes show those in class when I talk about propaganda. It's like there's all kinds of propaganda, and people might say, "Well, it's not Well, yeah, there's a lot of propagandic aspects to the Why We Fight series that he made for the Army Corps. Not to say that all propaganda is wrong or evil. It depends on what your perspective is, right? Propaganda can be for your side or against your side. Anyhow, so yeah, with It's a Wonderful Life. It was the first feature of Republic Pictures. I talked about that in the video on It's a Wonderful Life. And so I think he was just tired of the studio system. He wanted to get paid more. So that's why he started Republic Pictures. And I think, that company never really grew. It made a couple films and then it just kind of faded away. So I think that's probably why his career kind of takes a nosedive after that, because he wasn't working inside the studio system so much anymore. Documentaries have a running time problem. Do 8-part Netflix doc? Are you kidding me? Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes they can. A documentary is much, much worse than fiction film. Movies or fantasy documentaries are distortions of the truth. You can be true. It can be true about that, because the other problem with documentary is the illusion of truth, right? Like, and you know what's actually the worst part of that? News. News is the illusion of truth. Like, you're not getting truth from watching the news. The news is just as much fabricated as anything else you watch. You just got to realize that there are whatever you watch, whatever you take in, like, always look at it from a perspective of like, okay, that's coming from a source, and that's sources, it's going to be biased by the source. Everyone has a bias. There's no such thing as non-bias. Everyone has a bias. So you have to be able to read bias. You have to understand what you're looking at. And that's the only way to approach the stuff, right? So you're watching a movie. I know I'm watching a movie and I'm watching the fictional aspects of a movie. I get that. I'm watching a documentary. I'm watching it from the lens of the documentary maker. I get that. That's all you got to do. So even our own memories are a distortion of the truth. Absolutely. Yeah, $5. Now, Jared was not the $5 footlong guy. Jared was the here's my pants, and and then he drops his pants. Ugh. All right, enough of that. Let's see here. It's a Wonderful Life had a mixed critical reception, disappointing box office. It's seen the end of Frank Capra. His peak acclaim was actually in the 30s and happened one night. Yeah, but despite mixed critical reaction, it did get nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture. So, I mean, I think it probably did better than I wouldn't say it might have. It didn't underperform, but I don't think it bombed. I think it was just, Trust but verify, absolutely, or at least be open, be receptive, but cautious. I don't say I trust anybody. Just be receptive and open. Anyhow, anybody else? So other than that, I've been trying to fix my 3D printer, and I don't know about you guys. I think my brain is suddenly there's something happened where I just can't think so straight anymore. So I've been trying to fix my printer and installing a new main board, and then having to do all the wiring. And I get frustrated because I watch these videos on YouTube trying to explain how to do it, but it's not the exact same model I have. And I'm like, they're saying blue wire, but there is no blue wire. There's only red and yellow. Where's the blue wire? It's like, so I gotta level that bed. I haven't even gotten that point yet. I'm just trying. It's still like, I got the board installed, and I got the new monitor installed, and it works, and I got it moving, but I gotta get the little touch sensor to hook up, which I still need. I think I need to like rewire that in a certain way. I don't know. It's a lobotomy, says Clone. I should not have done that. Should not have done that lobotomy. I should have, they're saying it was free. It's like free lobotomies. I'm like, oh, sweet, it's free. Like, it's got to be good, right? It's free. So I got it, and, now I can't think straight. Let's see here. Story about Kaplan's failing with his independent company reminds me how Hitchcock was sinking his own company in the late 40s after breaking it with Selznick flop after flop after flop. But Hitchcock got a new chance at Warner Brothers, made Stranger Than a Train his comeback. There you go. It's, I think a funny thing about the truth of the matter when it comes to filmmaking is that sometimes a good producer is what a director needs. I fight with this every time I do this. I lecture about the jobs of in a movie production. There's always a student that like, oh, I didn't realize that the producer is the director's boss. So yeah, the producer actually is so many times we hear the propaganda coming from Hollywood that the director's vision, we're here to accomplish the director's vision, and all that. Sometimes you need a producer to kind of come in and say, I hired you for your vision, but we got to like rein you in a little bit. We got to like, I know you want to do this scene. I don't think it fits the story and I don't think it fits your vision. I know you think you want this scene, but I don't think it's appropriate. I want you to cut back on it. And I feel like you need to have those people that have like really good tastes in the room to kind of pull back some of the excesses of a director who has basically an unending checkbook. Like those movies, James Cameron might be the exception, right? Because every time but then again, the producers, all they say about how James Cameron always goes over budget and all that stuff, but the producers probably look at James Cameron like, yeah, okay, I'll give you more money. Okay, I see where. So James Cameron might be the guy that like can pull it off, right? Doesn't mean every director out there who wants to spend more money on his vision, and then is turned down by the producer. Doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean the producer is wrong. James Cameron just might be like, hey, he might. I think James Cameron can show the producers why he needs more money, and he gets it. That's why. Anyhow, but we're fighting. We're dealing with basically Hollywood is essentially a marketing machine. So everything you see about Hollywood, every detail about how the Hollywood system works and all that, and people are like restricting my vision. I don't believe it. Yeah, Capra critics referred Frank Capra as Capricorn. Yeah, Capricorny. Yep, he tends to do that. Yeah, Arthur Hill needed Bob Evans to make Love Story, and Bob Evans is kind of a good, his little documentary was really fun to listen to or watch. But yeah, like a really good producer is probably just as important as a really good director. Because the producer can't do it by themselves, right? The producer can't do it. They need the director's vision. They need that, but they know how to select the vision. They know how to groom the vision. They know how to guide it. And I think a lot of directors need that. And I feel like that's what we're having now with Hollywood. It's like no vision, it's all corporate men that just, it's going to make this much money. Calculate it. And there's no restraint. There needs to be. I think that's why I'm optimistic, because I'm seeing the fallout from that. Anyhow. Selznick stifled Hitchcock, though. That said, Hitchcock truly found his 50s his whole loyal crew. Tomasini as editor, Herman in music, Burks as cinematography, Edith Head as costume design. Yeah, stifled. I don't know. Did he stifle, or did he just maybe Selznick and Hitchcock were not? Maybe Hitchcock and Selznick were not the good match. But Selznick, it's hard to say. It's hard not to talk about Selznick in a way that's like, oh, he's a restrictive part of history. Like Selznick has a record. Let's look him up. Selznick's track record, right? Selznick, we're talking about like here, IMDb, right? Known for Gone with the Wind, Rebecca, King Kong, Duel in the Sun. There's a lot of good stuff. Selznick was not a bad thing for history. Anyhow, my voice is starting to go. Let's hang out for a little bit longer. How long have we been on? An hour and 30-something minutes? Like, we'll go till 2:30. How about that? Give you a nice 2 hours. But also, Bob Evans was adamantly against casting Al Pacino as Michael Corleone, but Coppola fought for Pacino. Yep, there you go. But I think, it's that creative tension, right? That, like, Bob Evans might have thought that, but he ultimately let Coppola pick Al Pacino eventually, right? So they had to fight for it. There you go. Barry Bucks is The Irishman is what happens when there's no one to say no. I kind of agree with that. Like, I feel like that's the thing. Like, you guys, I don't know if you remember, back in the tracheotomy, I should have told you, but they were giving it away for free, people. Totally. It said free tracheotomy, like right after they got the lobotomy. I'm a sucker for free shit. Anyhow, so yeah, a couple years ago, right, Spielberg was out there bemoaning the death of Hollywood. I don't know if you guys remember this, like it was such a news story, right? Oh, Hollywood's going to be dead in a few years. Hollywood's going to be dead. And the problem was, what spurred it was the fact that Spielberg wanted to make Lincoln and couldn't get the funding for the movie Lincoln. And I think Lincoln was like $112 million budget or something like that. But the problem, like what he doesn't say is, he was trying to get Lincoln made, but Lincoln wasn't really about Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was about the battle for the 14th Amendment. And that's how it was being sold. And no one's in their right mind saying, Spielberg wants to make a movie about the 14th Amendment. All right, let's drop $112 million on this movie about the congressional battle for the 14th Amendment. Like, maybe $30 million, maybe $50 million, but not $100 million. Am I getting my facts completely wrong? Let's look it up real quick. Lincoln, because that's the way I am, right? I need to make sure I get Lincoln film budget. Hey, Google's been listening to me. Sorry, $65 million. So they wanted to drop $65 million, okay? I was way off. I was off by a factor or two. But you gotta remember, this is 2012 money, so, inflation. A lot different now. So that's the problem. He had trouble raising money for Abraham Lincoln, which is sold as the battle for the 14th Amendment. That was the problem, right? And so that was like, somebody should need to come to Spielberg and say, hey, look, I know you're Spielberg and all that, but we you gotta like make your budget work. And I feel like that's what the problem was with. That's why Spielberg went off on that tirade. In similar ways, Scorsese's been like that too. Scorsese, it feels like he could make movies for cheap. He could, like he's done it before. Let's take a look. So the Last Temptation of Christ film budget. Because the story with that was he was supposed to make another film, and he agreed to make The Last Temptation of Christ so long as they made it for really cheap. So they shot in 58 days, according to Google here. Shot in 58 days for $7 million, right? So, and it honestly, it looks like it's cheap. Was made on the cheap. It doesn't look super expensive, right? But Scorsese will never do that again. He's not going to play the independent, super cheap movie game. So he's got to demand, like, even his cheapest movie is like The Silence. I think that was like $30 or $40 million. He could have probably made that for a lot less if he really wanted to. But all these famous directors, and believe me, if I got to that fame and that age, I probably would too. Like, I'm 65 years old and 70 years old. You got to bring me some big money in order to make this movie, or else I'm not going to do it because, like, I don't have the fight in me to make a independent film for $2 million. Anyhow, I don't know. I'm just babbling at this point. The only free cheese is on the trap. That's a good point. I should remember that. John got the lobotomy after watching The Host and learning that it can turn you into an action hero. Very point. Good point. Science is fantastic, though. Yeah, but is it? Did it need to be? Did it need to be cost? How much did it cost? Did it need to cost? Let me make sure I get the budget right. Did science need to cost $40 to $50 million? I would say probably not. I mean, considering it's what, a cast of like 3 or 4 or 5, I guess. I mean, sure, could have been done for cheaper. Because it grossed $7.1 million in the United States, $16 million in other territories, for a worldwide total of $23.7 million against it. So it lost money. Could it have been made where it didn't lose money? I think it could. With all that juice? With all that juice, how only 4 times? I'm not sure I follow that one. I'll let you guys go on that. Hal Wallace, cinematographer, Casablanca's producer, was pissed at Jack Warner after receiving the Academy Award for Casablanca's for winning Best Picture. Hal Wallace was ready to receive the award, but Jack Warner did. That's funny. Yeah, the original reason why the Oscars were invented, the Louis B. Mayer has been famous for saying, like, if you give awards to your employees, they can get them to do anything they want. So that was the whole reason for the Oscars, right? And I think he came up with the idea, and I was going to do a video about it, but like, there's not enough meat in the bone there. So I believe what happened was he wanted to build a house in Malibu for himself, and so he wanted to hire the stage crew that builds the stages for movies. And the stage crew's like, no, you're paying us to make movie stages. We're not building you a house. First of all, it's a completely different, bit of construction, but that's what we do here. We work for Warner Brothers or MGM, and we build stages. We don't build houses, right? So that's what kind of spurred on some of the like calls for unionization back in the early days. And Jack Warner's like, well, what if I give an award? If I give an award, then I can get them to do whatever I want. And so, it didn't quite work out that way. So it's ironic that, the whole idea of the Oscars was to get your underlings to do your bidding. And here Jack Warner takes the award anyway. Yeah. Yeah, it might be a shoddy house considering, yeah, exactly. When my dad was in Taiwan. I was born in Taiwan. So when my dad was there, we used to go, he told a story about going to the Hollywood of Taipei, which is not really Hollywood. It's like where they do all the TV shows. And my dad was remarking, like, you never realize how shoddy these things look when you actually see them in person. Like on the movie, in the TV show, they look impressive, but when you go see them, it's like flimsy and it's just terrible. So anyhow, the juice was loose. Very good. I don't know how we got into this juice. I'm going to go back and see how we got into this juice kick. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing it. Someone explain it to me. All right. Anyhow. Yeah. So I am, like I said, I'm kind of in between stuff. So I want to sit down and try to figure out like what the next steps and what videos I want to make for Filmmaker IQ. Like I do want to make a video about the opposite side of the frame rate discussion when we talked about what's the frame rate of the human eye. And I'll talk about what frame rate do you need to actually simulate reality? Like the wording would be, what frame rate do you need to eliminate all effects of discrete frame rate? And the answer is in the tens of thousands, well, not even tens, yeah, tens of thousands of frames per second in order to really get rid of every last bit of artifact that frame rate, last artifact that discrete frame rate has. So I want to do that video. But then I also want to do, I need to do some videos about reviewing some of your stuff. So I want to do that. Space-time is quantized. Yeah, but unfortunately space-time is quantized to a granality that's even finer than what I'm talking about. Like 20,000 frames a second is still massively higher than Planck time or something like that. So, but you don't need you only need about 20,000 frames a second. Only about 20,000 frames a second. The interesting thing, again, it's dealing with psychopathic teenagers. Uh, when you talk about what the frame rate you need to simulate reality, it has less to do with the frame rate itself. It has to do with spatial relationship. Like it's all about space. It's not about frames. Like the reason why you need that many frames is because you need every frame for every little bit of movement. So like basically the how fine you can see, like how good your resolving power of your eyes are spatially determines what frame rate you need, not the ability to see frames per second. In fact, the human eyes, if you watch that frame rate video, I keep saying a human eye doesn't have a frame rate. It's true, but like it's closer to 10 frames a second. It's not that fast. It's because you need that frame rate to fix the spatial relationship. So it's sort of the space-time, right? I guess you would talk about like space-time continuum, right? It's the space, it's the space that you need for the time, not the time. Anyhow. What if pixels lit only when you looked at them? That's one of the things that they try to. That's one of the attempts to, because the question of what the highest frame rate to generate reality is a question of virtual reality. It's the golden, the golden trophy of virtual reality. If you can get virtual reality to really feel virtual, you would need the frame rate super high. But if you had 20,000 frames a second and you're not even looking at that in virtual reality, you're not even looking at it, then it's a waste. So you would love to be able to track the eye and only have that frame rate for when the eye is looking at something or moving or anything like that. So that's kind of the trophy for virtual reality. So yeah, that's definitely something that they're working on and trying to figure out. Let's see. Oh, based on the image flowing over the rods and cones. Not quite. We can talk about it. Let's see. He once made a deal. I think we're talking about one of the Warner Brothers, right? Or how? Yeah. Oh, there you go. Hal Willis was so pissed off that he left Warner Brothers after Jack Warner was very controversial, to say the least. Ruthless, arrogant. He said, "If I'm right 50% of the time, I'm winning. 51% of the time, I'm winning." He once made a deal with his brothers to sell their shares to the company. They sold. He didn't, and it was part of a scheme he made to have his majority of shares. Warner Brothers was one of the. I would definitely want to do a video on Warner Brothers. Oh, hi. Welcome, live chat. Welcome, Ria Comby. I've run VR at 72 and 90 hertz, and it feels fine. I've tried 120 before, and there's diminishing returns. Yeah, so and I was talking to the name drop Blurbusters guys, and basically you're not going to see. You need to double. You need to start doubling. Like we talk about stops of light, right? Like one stop of light, even like one stop of light difference is not that much, right? Like if you took a picture of something that's lit with one light and then lit with another light that's double the brightness, it won't feel double. It'll feel marginally brighter, but it won't feel like it's double the brightness. Same thing with frame rate. So you go to 90 hertz, and you need to double it to 180. Then you're going to see a little bit of difference. Then you double that again to 360. Then double that again to 360, 720. Double that again to 1440. Okay, now we're going to start seeing improvements. And really, 1,000 frames, they talk about 1,000 frames per second is when you really start to kind of notice a big difference. There's still going to be some issues as far as the discrete frame rate will still create some artifacting at even at 1,000 frames a second. But 1,000 frames a second will be pretty good. You'll be able to track things with your eyes without any induced motion blur. What happens? How you get rid of every single bit of possible discrete frame rate artifact is to take it up to like 10,000, 20,000. Again, remember, we have to double, right? So 1,000, 2,000, 4,000, 8,000, 10,000, 16,000. Then you start getting rid of every possible amount of discrete frame rate issues. Clone 4 is it? Well, the granularity of rods and cones determines the update rate on the maximum turn rate. Yeah. It's even more complicated than that because there's processing going on with the rods and cones. So those rods and cones are feeding into like they're in the clusters of ganglion cells, or I don't know the terminology. There's a bunch of other cells that are happening. You know, that you're not just getting a straight signal from your rods and cones to your brain. It's actually being processed, you know, subretinally, and then some other processing, and certain details are pulled out from here. It's super weird. So there's a lot of stuff happening, right? The point is, like, it's not like the idea that you're going to see, that you even see in frame rate is not appropriate, right? But it's there's a lot of processing, and all that processing takes time. It does. There's no getting around it. So yeah, ultimately 10 frames a second. If you want to be cheeky and fun with it, 10 frames a second is a kind of a fun way to kind of get the internet angry at you. But if you explain it in a way that, like, well, 10 frames a second, that's why you see motion blur. You know, that's why you see it. Like if you actually saw 300 frames a second, you wouldn't see motion blur. You wouldn't, like, I could take a picture of my hand moving around. I wouldn't see motion blur with a camera that's shooting 300 frames a second, but shaking around my face, I see motion blur. So obviously you're not seeing 300 frames a second. But again, we're mixing a lot of confusing because the eye is not a camera, that kind of thing. Anyhow, my voice is starting to feel like it's really going. My streams are primo. I appreciate that. People used to hate my streams. They're like, why are you streaming? You should be making videos. And I was like, yes, I agree, but streaming is fun. I like doing it. I like talking to you guys. I like hanging out with you guys. It's fun for me. I hope you guys enjoy it. At least if some of you are. I sound tired. I feel like I am. I still have a little bit of cough. I feel like I'm super tired. The focus needs to be dramatically adjusted by tracking the eyes. Right now, focus is static and it can only adjust the head movement. Yeah, that's for sure. I heard that people say that Across the Spider-Verse is really Gwen's movie above all. Her arc is actually full conclusion already. Yeah, I feel like she starts the movie. Like the whole first 20 minutes is her, right? And I appreciate the story. I appreciate her story. I appreciate her character because I like her character and everything about her character is really good. It does feel like, though, like, I just want to get to the Spider-Verse. Like, Spider-Verse we need to be in the Spider-Verse. It needs to be Spider. Anyhow. I sound tired. He's right, Jack D. Yeah, I'm a little tired. I am tired. Human vision is far more than just the equipment of the eye. Yeah, exactly. Totally agree, 100% clone. That's what I fight against. I mean, it's psychopathic teenage idiots, right? like the kids are like, I can see 500 frames a second. My eyes are so good, I can see. Like, not really, but again, like what I was saying, like the whole idea of you can see a frame rate has less to do with your eye's ability to detect the frame rate, but it has to do with spatial acuity, right? That's how you can see the frame rate, is because you can still detect the spatial issues. Not necessarily that the eye has a frame rate or detects things in a frame rate or any of that. If we can fake reality, can't we fake the requirements of faking it? That is clever. That's a clever wordplay. If we can fake reality, can we fake the requirements of faking the fake reality? Perhaps. Or just get rid of the eyes completely and just hook up electrodes to your visual cortex and just stream stuff straight into the eyeball. Streams are for lonely people like me. I'm right there with you. I got nothing to do today. Well, I was going to either finish that. I don't feel like I want to finish getting that 3D printer working or not. Sorry. Clone 4. I love this. We probably imagine half of our vision. 100% agree. The analogy I always give is try dropping a silver screw on a gray carpet. Right? Just try it. Just do it. Now, and then look without tracking with your eyes, look for that silver screw on your gray carpet. You will not be able to see it until you do, at which point you will never be able to stop seeing it. It's like it, like your brain just kind of figures, something's there, right? Gray mix of thing. But then you see the screw, and then you'll never stop being able to see that screw, because your brain will, there's a screw, and it maps it out and it just puts it there. But you could be staring at that gray carpet for a long time and not see it until you finally do. And then you can't stop seeing it. So, amen. I'm making change here. Any analogy to the human eye with video camera is horribly wrong and misleading in all possible aspects. It's something complete. Finally, yes, the world is realizing I'm not crazy. No. Yeah, the human brain's and that's the thing. Like that's what bothers me about the gamers and all that stuff, talking about how frame rate, blah blah blah. It's like the human brain is amazing. It's magical. It's cool. And you can watch a movie like Into the Spider-Verse with its kind of stop motion-y stuff, and it's just cool. I'm not antisocial. I'm only anti-stupidity. There you go. I'm not antisocial. I'm only anti-work. Gee, Officer Krupke, we really a mess. The boy don't have he needs a year. I don't know how, I lost my lyrics on that. I prefer to think of it as antisocial personality disorder and introversion rather than loneliness. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like psychopathic teenagers had something to do with it. Like, I don't know. I don't, me personally, I don't feel like I'm antisocial. Maybe you guys are. I mean, you could be. I think it's just unthinking psychopathic teenagers that are out there that are really, really annoying and make me want to just have them all killed and done for. Is it wrong? I don't think it's wrong. Yeah, watch Demonetize. He calls for the death of basically all of our YouTube fan base. Hal B. Willis is sometimes accused of being an overbearing manager of Elvis Presley's movie career, and Jerry. So I mean, yeah. So even Selznick, right? There's stories about Selznick, because I think he was known for taking like a huge amount of uppers. I don't think it wouldn't have been, if it was the 80s, it would have been crack cocaine, but it was the 40s. So whatever the upper he was taking a lot of them, right? And he would I guess the stories are he would write these 100-page memos, maybe not 100 pages, like 10, 20-page memos, like on the set of whatever, Gone with the Wind or something like that. But he'd be up like all night writing these things, and then he'd work the whole day, and then he's like get like 10 minutes of sleep, and then come back and just write these long ass memos to send them all out. And some of these producers could be seriously overbearing. To be sure, they could be. Absolutely. Doesn't mean that they're necessarily wrong though. Sometimes it takes a person that's overbearing. Yeah. I think if the audience is in the mood, they can accept anything. So another part of faking reality is to have the audience in the state of accepting it. That sounds like an Apple advertisement. Sounds like the Matrix talk. You're talking like the Matrix there. Oh, I gotta blow my nose. There you go. Casablanca. Casablanca ultimately is one of the supreme collective achievements of American cinema, when all stars align for everyone. And the script was like being written in that day, such amazing accomplishment. So you can have all that and be lonely too. Fun. No, I hear the loneliness part. No, totally. I think the loneliness part comes from kind of, in many ways, now we get philosophical, and I wouldn't call this political, but more of a cultural commentary, in that how, at least in American society, the last few years have really kind of seen a degradation in kind of the social norms and social activities that we used to have. I mean, I feel like I'm starting to see it return. And I feel like I'm starting to see a return with a vengeance. However, we have gone too much into the virtual social media realm. forgetting that there is a human IRL social realm that we've neglected in the last 3 years, 4 years. And it felt like we were heading there, but then the pandemic forced our hand to go there super fast. So now instead of, playing games together, a board game night or something like that, we will oftentimes instead reach for a virtual gaming night where we could get on, multiplayer games or whatever and play virtually. And it doesn't have that same kind of feel to it. And I work by myself. I work for myself, so that makes me super lonely, super alone. But yeah, I feel like we need to start clawing our way back to IRL stuff, to real life things, because I think social media, as we all discovered, social media is fine in doses. Social media is perfectly acceptable, and I think it's perfectly okay to have a little bit of social media. For God's sakes, get off that social media after a while. After you watch a stream, obviously. Watch the stream. That's cool, because this is the most IRL we're going to get on social media as a live interaction. But stay the hell away from long discussions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that crap. Anyhow, I am tired. And we'll always have Paris. Let's not forget that. We will always have Paris. Yeah, and as a result of that, the structural part of society is evolving, working from home resulting in store closures in my state. Yep. West of the Rockies, caller, you're on. That guy had so many phone numbers. If you're calling from east of the Alleghenies, it's 919-618-74. You're calling west of the Rockies, it's if you're in the Bermuda Triangle, call 96-WIN. If you're calling from outside of the planet surface, call. If you don't know, it's an Art Bell joke from the old radio shows I used to do. What was that show called? I don't remember. Art Bell. I used to get I always hated, I really hated pseudoscience. I really hated it. So it always bothered me to listen to those guys. So, I mean, I know a lot of fans of Art Bell on Coast to Coast. There it is. Yeah. On air, Stranger Sound. Says Coast to Coast. Yeah. So it always bothered me to listen to, I used to hate pseudoscience. I just hated it. But now I've kind of gotten a little bit more tolerance for it. It's like, okay, I'll listen to aliens talking about weird aliens and stuff like that. It always bugged the crap out of me. Oh, he had NASA engineers on? I didn't know that. Well, that'd be interesting. I guess, back in the old day, talk radio is the predecessor to podcasts. And nowadays, podcast, I can't even listen to terrestrial radio anymore because it's full of ads. Nothing but ads. I can't. The famous one in California is KFI, 640 AM. So, I mean, it's obviously it's the most popular talk radio in California, Southern California. But I can't listen to it because it's like ads, nothing but ads the whole time. Bigfoot is real. There you go. You heard it here, folks. Here on the stream, right live. Bigfoot is real. Dogs and cats sleeping together. Mass hysteria. It's all. Nobody takes calls anymore. Calls are the blood of radio. Interesting. Isn't that what this is? Kind of. I'm reading your comments. Isn't that sort of like call and radio? I don't know. I'm not super popular. Obviously, I've got 25 people, 21 people here on my stream, so I can do read your comments kind of a section. But I've seen some of the other podcasts. It's they just ignore the audience because there's a million of them, so they can possibly do it all. Anyhow, it's 2:30. It's 2:30. I gotta get going. Who watched season 3? I think you should leave. Interesting. Check that one out. So yeah, I want to check out the rest of Silo. So watch some more of that. There's a new season of Foundation coming to Apple. So I just found that out. I was like, when are we going to get a new season of Foundation? We need a new season of Foundation. So that will be happening. And I think this is going to be a fun summer. You don't have to watch any of those, I'm even curious about movies like Gran Turismo. It's all right, I'll watch that movie if it looks interesting. Watch Blackberry. Jack D. Ripper says that. Watch Blackberry. I'm going to write that down. Blackberry. Let's see. Where can I watch it? Blackberry. Not the phone. Blackberry trees. So watch Blackberry. I mean, Glenn Howerton. I like Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny. So check out Blackberry. Where can I watch this thing? We'll have to figure it out. Find it out. Blackberry. I would remember that. Blackberry. Extension to Earth is 42. I love that. It's the answer to life, everything in the world, and it does also the wrong spider. So, long time listener, first time caller. Yep. It's similar, but it's nice to hear the raw anger I wonder if we could set up a live stream like call-in show. That'd be we could set it up for YouTube. I probably could figure it out. It might be kind of fun to do it like once a week or something like that. Just for the hell of it. Unscripted. But then be like a lot of people yelling obscenities at me. I can't believe you like 24 frames a second. All right, guys, my voice is shot, and I am going to go do something else. Who saw the last episode of Barry, short for Barry Disappointing? Oh, I liked it. I thought it was, just to leave it off of that. Was it disappointing? I think it was disappointing in that it ended, but it was like, it ended. I'm happy that it got ended, that it actually finished the show. And speaking of which, I didn't say this earlier. I'll say it real quick. Barry, very disciplined about the runtime. That's the theme of today's show. Disciplined about the runtime. Speaking of which, I am not, because this is now 2 hours or something I've been on here. All right, guys. So thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next week. Hopefully I get some stuff done next week. And we'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye. See you later. See you next week. Bye.